In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to position your hand on guitar when you play rhythm, when you play lead. I'm going to show you where you put your thumb, how your hand should look so that you can play easily and it feels comfortable for you to do. All right, so let's dive into it. First of all, there's two positions that we use on guitar with we think of it in terms of your thumb. And there's two different positions that we use. The first position is thumb over the top of the neck. And the second position is thumb behind the neck. Okay, so I'll show you what each one of those looks like. Thumb behind the neck looks like that. Thumb over the top of the neck looks like that. So two different positions for guitar. And that means that we can't just use one position all the time, 100% of the time. So we can't use thumb over the top all the time or thumb behind the neck all the time. We have to use them at the right times. All right, let's understand why. When your thumb is over the top of the neck, your hand is basically in this type of a position, right? So notice how my wrist is straight, right? And then thumbs over the top, the fingers are kind of down here like this. And the fingers are all going to be at an angle too, like that. So what does that mean? That means it's going to be easier to do certain things and harder to do other things when our thumb's like that. But now notice when my thumb is behind the neck, it has this sort of a shape to it. See how the wrist drops down, right? The fingers are up higher. They're not as low like they were if the thumb's over the top. And they spread out. They're not at an angle. Now that's really good for certain things, not as good for other things. So let's see, where would we use thumb over the top? We use the thumb over the top when we want to mute out low strings, like when we're playing a chord. We want to make sure the sixth string doesn't ring out. So we throw the thumb over the top, make sure it doesn't do it. Right there, right there. So it's any time that we don't want the lower strings to ring, we just throw that thumb over the top and we make sure that it's catching the strings. Anytime that we also want to be able to use that straight wrist, that's really good for anything that needs strength. Okay, so if we want to do something like bending, that works way better if we have a straight wrist and we can put power into it from the forearm. If your thumb's behind the neck like this, it's harder to bend the strings. You have to use your fingers. Okay, so thumb over the top of the neck for muting out lower strings or for doing anything that requires extra strength like bending and vibrato. Now, when would we use thumb on the back of the neck? Use thumb on the back of the neck for anything that requires a little bit more delicacy, a little bit more coordination, where it can't be just brute strength. And we need our fingers to kind of be able to be a little more even, a little more ergonomic. That's where that thumb drops behind the neck. So if we're playing up through a scale, for instance, especially scales that have stretches, it's way easier to do that with that thumb behind the neck. Look what happens if my thumb goes over the top of the neck. See how all the fingers go at an angle? See that? They went from straight and just able to spread out to now at an angle and cramped. And I can't, there's not the same range of motion. See how my fingers can't go as high on the fretboard as easily? That's a problem too. The higher we go physically, like higher towards the ceiling, the more your thumb is going to need to drop down and be behind the neck. So that's where we would use thumb behind the neck. Playing up through a scale or a bar chord where our thumb needs to be behind the neck for that too. In order to get that first finger to stretch out, all the fingers need to be lined up even like that. If your thumb's over the top of the neck, that's way harder. See the difference? Okay, so here's how that would look. If we're improvising, here's lead guitar, right? I'm going to have my thumb over the top of the neck if I'm just doing casual playing. And vibrato. But watch this. Thumb went to behind the neck when I'm doing something that kind of goes up a scale. Or a little legato there. So thumb over. And back when I'm doing the vibrato again. So notice how thumb kind of went back and forth as needed, depending on kind of the style that I'm playing in here. Behind the neck, above, vibrato and bending types of stuff, or doing more of the delicate, the stuff that required a little bit more of that kind of touch. Now, if I'm playing rhythm guitar, check it out. Thumb over the top for these open chords. Thumb behind the neck for the bar. If I'm doing funky stuff, thumbs over the top of the neck to make sure those strings are muted out. If I'm doing simple chords, casual chords up the neck, I'm still trying to make sure those lower strings are muted. Still trying to make sure that they're muted out. What if I'm doing something though that's a little more complex of a chord? What if I need something like this? Only way I'm going to be able to play that chord is with my thumb on the back of the neck. That's way too hard to play if my thumb's over the top. Okay, so anything that requires that stretch and those ergonomics with your fingers, the comfort with your fingers, you got to use thumb behind the neck. Anything that requires muting on the lower strings, thumb's got to be over. Anything that requires a little more strength, thumb's got to be over. And anything where we're just kind of playing casually, your thumb can be over. That's where things kind of, those are the different ways that you use thumb behind the neck and thumb over the neck. So that's how to position your hand, your left hand, when you play guitar. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. If it was, leave me a like and also tell me, what is your biggest frustration with your fretting hand, with your left hand on guitar? Is it that you struggle with tension, like your fingers feel too tight? Is it that they don't feel strong enough? Or is it that you have a hard time with stretching, wide stretches? Or is it something else? You can comment down below. Let me know what's your biggest problem with your left hand. I'm interested in hearing from you guys. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.